Greetings, everybody. Nikki Brown here. No matter where you are, what part of the world you are in, I hope that you are having a good day. So, in today's video, I'm going to talk about daddy issues. um, this is a serious topic. I am taking it seriously, although I laughed. I'm not being condescending. This is just my nervous and uncomfortable laughter when it comes to touchy subjects like this. So that's not to be offensive. Doesn't mean that I'm not taking it seriously either. This is just how my personality works, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Signs you may have daddy issues. Number one, you are interested in much older men. Now, this is probably one we don't really think about. Now, I'm reading this from KentuckyCounselingCenter.com. And it basically says growing up with your dad by your side is a privilege that some people are deprived of. No one can deny that growing up in a complete and emotionally healthy family is a wonderful gift. Individuals who are having difficulties creating secure attachments in adult relationships may have daddy issues. They could develop if you grow up without a father or lived with a dysfunctional one. Having daddy issues is not a serious mental condition. However, this term is sometimes used to put down women in their romantic relationships, including men who are perceived to be acting like their father. The term is often misinterpreted and misused. Daddy issues are real, but there's absolutely no need to use daddy issues as a term of derision on those who may have them. The origin of daddy issues. There is no certainty as to how the term daddy issues came about, but the concept started with the Freud's father complex. So, for those of you who are familiar with Sigmund Freud, he even came up with the Oedipus complex and a few other complexes, right? A person with father complex has unconscious impulses because of their relationship with their father. These impulses can either be positive or negative. A negative impulse towards a partner could be fear or distrust, while a positive impulse could be admiration towards the partner. A daughter with father complex develops unhealthy relationships with other men who care for her. In women with father complex, the brain recreates their relationship with their father as a way to try to fix the broken relationship. This happens even when someone has been sexually assaulted or molested as a child, as is the case in R. Kelly. In his mind, he was trying to fix what was done to him by taking control and in doing it to other people. This may not make sense to you, and the person may not be doing this. This may be unconscious or subconscious that they're exhibiting these behaviors, right? This may not be intentional. It's same thing with a female. I've heard women say this quite often. If they were molested by a relative or close family friend, as they get older, they become promiscuous because it becomes, well, now I have control over who takes my body or who gets my body, and nobody else is ever going to have that control over me again. This is the mentality. Like, this is not going to happen to me again because I'm going to subconsciously fix it. Again, it may not make sense, but this is what happens because, especially for a male child, they don't know how to process that. And then, girls are told this too, but more so boys are told not to express their emotions, right? To hold it in, Don't cry, suck it up, be a man, be tough, be strong. Again, there are girls who are told the same thing, that women are weak if they cry, stop crying, shut that crying up, or be quiet before I give you something to cry about, whatever that looks like. Women do experience this too, so it's really not gender specific. It's just that a male child will process that information differently. Freud conceived a similar theory called the Oedipus complex. I just said something about that, and I hadn't read this article first. Towards the end of the 19th century. In this theory, the famous psychoanalyst posits that children are subconsciously attracted to the opposite sex parent. A lot of people were kind of freaked out about that. But I do know that when I was raising my son, at a certain point, I had to stop walking around, with just my bra and panties on. Because although this is my child, he's still a male child, and men and little boys still look, right? They may not be looking lustfully, but it's still, at a certain point, it becomes inappropriate. And if you're the mother, your mind doesn't think that way because you're not a boy. And you may think that it's innocent, but really, at a certain age, we should no longer do those things in front of our male children. Okay, so signs you may have daddy issues. This list is. It says below are some indicators pointing to a very high likelihood that you might have daddy issues. And again, number one is you are interested in much older men. If you grew up with a dysfunctional father or without one, you subconsciously desire someone who can protect and adore you like an ideal dad. Men do this too, but I'll do the men's list later. For me, when I see someone who likes really, now it could be a fetish or it could just be something that they want to try. I get that. But it could also be a red flag that this person has daddy issues, and they're looking for someone to take care of them, because their father wasn't there, like a father would. You think they can provide the lack of affection you missed growing up. You prefer older men because they are more stable financially and have a more settled lifestyle. Number two, you are clingy, possessive, and protective. If you are continually anxious that your partner will leave you, you can be very clingy, possessive, and even protective of them. You have developed an anxious attachment style because of the relationship you had with your caregivers in childhood. You tend to be very irritable. You always check your partner's phone to find out if they are cheating. You also worry if they frequently come home late. This anxious behavior could strain your relationship and leave you abandoned. Whether it's male or female, because I've experienced that in relationships. And for some people, they see that as a sign that this person really loves or cares about them. But it's unhealthy and it can be emotionally draining. It's just, it's not healthy. It's just, when somebody doesn't trust you, and you're not doing anything wrong, and you constantly have to discuss, or like they said, have somebody going through your phone, and they're asking about it could be the most innocent thing, but they will have a 5-hour conversation about what's in your phone. And I know that there are some people, they feel like it's healthy, it can be healthy, right? If you have that open and honest relationship with your partner, you answer his phone, she answers your phone, you use each other's phone, that's different. But when you have somebody going through your phone in an attempt to find something just to start an argument, this is not healthy. it's very emotionally draining and stressful, and it makes you want to leave that person. And then that person will then accuse you, oh, you just must have been screwing with somebody else anyway. No, who in the world in their right mind wants to deal with this though? And some people, they don't get it. They still will blame it on something else rather than be accountable and responsible for their actions. That is very stressful to have to go through that on a regular basis. Number 3, you consistently demand assurance of love. If you grew up developing insecurities, you would consistently seek assurance from your partner about their feelings for you. You also tend to compare yourself with your partner's exes. So someone who's constantly seeking validation is no different than somebody who's constantly posting themselves on Facebook to get these likes or get this attention, right? Except that you're just demanding this of somebody one-on-one and in a relationship. Like, I had a situation where, and not for nothing, because I don't mind giving compliments, but this person would get the same haircut every week or every other week, however often it was, and would expect a compliment every time. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why am I giving you a compliment? You got the same haircut. I've already told you that I think that you know, your haircut looks good or whatever the case may be. So each and every time, it doesn't look any different. But then when it came to me, if I had braids or a weave or something like that, oh, you're ugly. And the whole time I had this installed in my hair, he would say that I was ugly. It was very insulting and very toxic. And then he would compare himself to an ex, and it is very toxic. Again, this can be suffocating for your partner. Aside from being abandoned, you will also feel unloved and unimportant. And see, when it comes down to stuff like that, and you leave this partner, they really get upset. And they will even blame it on something else. Even if you did leave that person and end up maybe in a situation with somebody else, the reason you left has nothing to do with the somebody else. It has everything to do with the things that you've experienced in that relationship. Okay? You constantly attract abusive partners. You have that subconscious desire to fix your broken relationship with your estranged father. Because of this, you are unconsciously attracted to self-absorbed and abusive partners. That's that law of attraction, right? Why? Because your attitude reminds you of your father, the person who badly wanted to please you, the person you badly wanted to please when you were younger. So whether the dad was physically absent or mentally and emotionally absent, there is this need to please your father or want to be around your father. And abandonment or rejection, if you kind of grow up with those issues, you can potentially attract someone who is also in some way, shape, form, or fashion emotionally unavailable, because there's a part of you that's emotionally unavailable. And people that are emotionally unavailable can be abusive. Or even arrogant and self-absorbed. And so then you're constantly trying to please this person or make this person happy, which is probably never going to happen. Number 5, you seem to crave sex a lot. You seem to crave a lot of sex. You think that sex is the only way you can keep your partner. You build your self-esteem through regular sexual interactions with them. Wanting to feel love through sex is like using a Band-Aid to cover wounds. Sex covers up emotional wounds. You know you are struggling with attachment issues and you cover them up to feel good about yourself. If this is the kind of love that you have now, there is no doubt you will get hurt in the long run. It's almost like a band-aid. You have to allow those emotions to come up and actually feel them and deal with them, as opposed to suppressing them and trying to cover them up with food, with sex, with having children, with smoking, with drinking, with seeking validation on Facebook or whatever other social media platform. Um, you have to really do the work, and that's the whole thing. A lot of people don't want to do the work to heal, to work past this. And the sex is just temporary. It makes you feel good in that moment, but I know a whole lot of women, after the act is done, they're going home crying, or or he leaves, he wipes off and goes home, and she's crying, she's upset, she's wanting him to be around more, because a lot of times these are women who may be satisfied with dealing with men who are already attached to someone else, or who are emotionally unavailable and don't desire to be in a relationship with them. And although, again, the sex may feel good, the idea that this person doesn't want you can be very hurtful. Even if that person says, I don't want a man, I'm good, I just want to do me, have sex, at the end of the day, that's usually not true. Because again, a lot of times these women, at the end of the day, they are emotionally upset about this and or crying about it. So they're saying one thing out their mouth, but doing another thing behind closed doors. It is what it is. You don't want to be alone. You are never single. You are jumping from one romantic relationship to another without pause. You don't care whether you end up with a decent or abusive partner. If this is the kind of love you desire, you will never discover your unique character. You can never have a healthy and promising relationship if you don't resolve the underlying issues that make you so uncomfortable being alone. I know I've given this advice. Everyone should live alone for at least 6 months to a year, right? And it helps you discover who you are as a person, what you like, what you don't like. It helps you be responsible and accountable for, handling your finances, and being accountable and responsible for keeping the house clean, or whatever other responsibilities that come with living by yourself. But you also get to know yourself. So those times when you're there by yourself, what do you like to do? What do you do for fun? Or do you like to write? Do you like to watch TV? What do you do when you are alone? Are you comfortable with being alone, or does it seem to, make you feel uncomfortable? Something to think about. And some people have never lived alone, and so they don't know the answer to some of these questions. And then they think they can't even imagine someone being alone. They can't imagine the people who are single, and happily single and good with who they are on the inside and out, actually being okay with it, to the point where they'll, say things, well, at least I got a man, or at least I got a woman. And this single person is like, yeah, but, that's not anybody that I would ever want to be with. For one reason or another. And also, they may be thinking, yeah, but y'all miserable. So you say you have somebody, but you're not even happy. You don't even know how to find your own joy and happiness. Okay. So now this is asking how to know if you have daddy issues. Ask yourself, do I have daddy issues? Asking yourself, do I have daddy issues, may not give you a clear answer. There's a clearer way to know if you have daddy issues, but you have to be honest about your relationship with your father. Answer these questions honestly. Did you grow up fatherless? Have you lived with an abusive father? Do you have a father figure who is mentally unstable or emotionally unattached? If your answer is yes to any of the questions, you may have attachment issues that need to be addressed. Types of fathers. There are different types of fathers who are the cause of their daughter's childhood trauma and adult relationship issues. Number one, the emotionally unavailable father. They are physically present at home but are emotionally unavailable to their daughters. The child feels incomplete and abandoned despite having a parent who is physically available. That's why I said, whether it's male or female, mother or father, if this person is mentally and emotionally absent, it's just like they're not there. Because they're not nurturing and pouring into you the way that you need to be nurtured and taken care of. This may be intentional or unintentional. Doesn't mean that this person doesn't love you. They may show a love in a way that makes sense to them, but if you understand the 5 love languages, if their love language is acts of service, so they get up and go to work, but your love language is touch, so you need hugs and kisses, and they're not giving it to you, you don't feel their love. You feel their detachment. Number 2, the abusive and violent father. They mistreat their daughters because of their impulsive, hot-tempered, and unstable emotional and mental state. Children living with this kind of father grow up struggling with mental health problems. Number 3, the pampering and indulging father. Children from this type of father are spoiled and overindulgent. Their father gives them a lot of attention and love. Growing up spoiled, the daughter would want to be treated the same way. She will look for a partner who will treat her like a queen. Most daughters end up with older boyfriends who are financially capable of providing the lavish life they think they deserve. Number 4, the toxic and controlling father. Have you heard of helicopter parenting? Helicopter parents and parents who focus extremely on their children's activities and decisions. These parents are extremely involved in their children's lives and are shielding them from disappointments. Daughters who grow up with a helicopter dad often seek very dominating partners. What else do they call it? Sheltering your child. So you're trying to keep your child away from certain situations. It's controlling. No different than a mom trying to keep her daughter away from certain men so that she doesn't end up pregnant, and it ends up happening anyway. So it's like the father's trying to prevent his daughter from being hurt or disappointed, but she ends up getting hurt and disappointed anyway because it's not realistic. It's better to teach your children about how people operate in the world so that they can make informed decisions on their own and not fall in, because it's like the very thing that you don't want to happen a lot of times ends up happening because you're so focused on it. Because remember, whatever we focus on grows. This is the law of attraction. I didn't make it up. You can't get away from it. It's a universal law, right? Whatever you focus on grows. So if you focus on your daughter not being disappointed, she's going to end up disappointed. That's just how it goes, because you're too focused on that, as opposed to teaching her, okay, this is how, certain people can be. Number 5, the ruined dependent father. There are fathers who are dependent on their daughters for their everyday survival. Caring for a dad who is not working can result in children with low self-esteem. They grow up easily manipulated or exploited by men for sexual or financial means. The anguished and distressed father. In normal conditions, Daughters look up to their fathers with admiration. So when a father begins to disappoint his daughter constantly, there is a big possibility that she will grow up with daddy issues. The daughter will grow up rebellious and self destructive. She may even entertain suicidal thoughts. A girl who grew up with an anguished father may have the tendency to engage in unprotected sex, take drugs, or develop an addiction. Another way that this could show up is that she becomes a mean girl. Right? How many mean girls do we know? Types of daddy issues. Individuals with daddy issues develop insecure attachment styles toward their parents. Insecure attachments happen when caregivers are unresponsive to the child's needs. Insecure attachment can be categorized into the following. Number one, anxious and preoccupied. These individuals are very clingy and anxious. They are unsettled because they're worried their partner might leave them. Number two, dismissive and avoidant. These individuals have trust issues. They are afraid to get hurt by those they trust and depend on. Number three, fearful and avoidant. These individuals are fearful and worried about intimacy. They avoid being close to anyone. When faced with difficulties, they prefer to run away. I kind of touched on that one yesterday. A lot of times, people say, oh, when women say they don't need no man, it's because they're feminists. That may not necessarily be the case, though. This is something else to consider. She may be afraid. And I understand that you may feel like you don't want to help somebody through that. Or you don't want to deal with somebody that way. Now, usually, though, once you get past that with someone, you can have a good relationship, but there may be some ebbs and flows, and sometimes it's not even that serious. It may just be a matter of hey, let me do that for you. And if she tries to pull away saying, I don't think that that's a good idea, let's talk about it. What are you afraid of? But that's just my opinion, right? Who can have daddy issues? Anyone can have daddy issues. Daddy issues are most prevalent than most people believe. That's because many people have childhood baggage that they bring into adulthood, including the unhealthy relationship they had with their parents. How do people with daddy issues choose a partner? Growing up, you dreamt of the person you wanted to spend your life with. Often you want a person who has similar characteristics as your parents. Whether you grew up in a happy or troubled family, you are still inclined to have relationships that you are familiar with. Most people, not all, right? The kind of relationship you experience growing up is considered your comfort zone. Regardless if it is traumatic or not, you are more likely to look for a partner who can give you the same kind of relationship you had with your parents. Now, I've mentioned this before, and it's because it was so profound when it was said to me. Someone that I know said that his girlfriend would jump all up in his face and, pointing that finger and threaten, to square up with him like a dude. And his response was, oh, well, my mother used to yell, so women yell. That's what women do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, no, that's not what all women do, and that's very toxic. But he was excusing and justifying this behavior, and that's understandable. Most people are going to defend the relationship that they're in, so that's neither here nor there. But again, whether it's traumatic or not, some people accept another person into their life, even if it is toxic, and they stay there because that works for them, right? That's what they're used to. They feel comfortable, they think that's how it's supposed to be, and they go on about their merry way in the relationship. Daddy issues and sexuality. Many fathers are unavailable emotionally, can be abusive, or physically absent. Children with less involved fathers develop poorly. They have an unstable development, which could result in an increased desire for sexual activities. Males who did not have a father growing up will have insecurities in their masculinity. Their insecurities can make them avoid dating or sex altogether. They can even exhibit aggressive behaviors or worse, become sexual predators. Um, I, I, a lot of people in today's society are hypersexual. And again, it's not necessarily because of the rap videos and things of that nature, although those things may have an influence, but people wouldn't be attracted to those influences if they didn't have other underlying issues that came from childhood, because most of the issues that people have come from childhood. What can be done? It's about time you think about all the relationships you had. Are you mostly happy, or do you constantly end up in unhealthy relationships? Um, what is it? Patty Stranger, the millionaire matchmaker, she used to say, your picker is broke. So if you're someone who realizes that your picker may be broke and you're picking the wrong person, ask yourself, do you have joy? Do you love yourself? Right? Again, have you ever lived with yourself for at least 6 months to a year to see what you like, to see what you want, to see what type of people you want to be around you? Do you want to be around yourself? Right? Do you want to be around yourself? Right? That's a good question. Or do you always seem to attract unhealthy relationships? Some people call it serial dating or serial relationships or whatever that term is. Where people, and it may not be back to back, but basically, an individual who has said several relationships over a span of years. One might have been 2 years, another 5 years, another 7 years, another 12 years, but never staying in a relationship. And yes, relationships do end, and then sometimes I'm reminded of that poem, A Season, a Reason, or a Lifetime. Sometimes we try to turn seasonal people into lifetime people, or lifetime people into seasonal people, because for whatever reason we can't see their value, and we think that that person's not good and that's not who I'm meant to be with for a lifetime. I have to do this because of the other issues, other underlying issues that are present that may be unbeknownst to the person. Look at other couples you know. Are their relationships different from yours? If you have close friends who have healthy relationships, ask for their advice. If your partner is willing to help you resolve your daddy issues, you can both get couples therapy. The goal of the treatment is to resolve underlying conflicts and come up with concrete solutions to the problems. I remind you that I am a certified master life coach. If you need counseling, I could refer you to someone, or if you would prefer a life coach, I could help you as well in that area. Just inbox me. Now is the time to think about having a better love life. Doing this alone is not going to be easy. You should seek professional help to be able to move forward and not look back. If you want to finally heal, there are ways that you can take those steps. Final thoughts. People with daddy issues tend to not love themselves enough or love themselves the wrong way. That was one of the questions I posed earlier. Do you love yourself? One of the things that I like to focus on in my coaching practice is self-love. There's a reason for that. A lot of people think they love themselves, but they really don't. I remember the first time I did a self-love exercise, and thinking, going into it confidently, thinking that I love myself. But when I started the exercise, a tear came down, and I was like, oh wow, what is that? What just happened here? um, and then I realized I didn't love myself as much as I thought I did. I do now, though. But healing work is constant, right? It's something that you will need to do for the rest of your life. You may have to reassure yourself in certain situations. There may be situations that come up that trigger you or make you question certain things. So healing work is forever. It's constant. Um, it's making that decision every day that this is what I'm going to do, right? It's like someone who was a former drug addict making the decision every day that I'm not going to do that anymore, right? They say you never stop being a drug addict. You just make the choice not to go back to that drug or not, whatever that looks like. This inevitably affects every relationship they have, be it familial, romantic, friendly, or professional. So sometimes we may wonder why we're having issues with certain people in our life, and there may be a pattern, and the common denominator is you, right? That's not to say that some of the issues that we have aren't real. Don't get me wrong. But our thoughts do become things. So sometimes what we're thinking can manifest in our lives because we're focusing on it, right? Love should be a two-way street. You love the person, and the person loves you back without any conditions. You are most likely to have stable, loving relations if you learn to love yourself and set personal goals. I would add to that, set boundaries. Don't be a people pleaser. No is a complete sentence. Learn to say no sometimes. You can't do everything for everybody and then get upset if nobody wants to do anything for you. That doesn't work out so well. You'll just feel like people are always trying to hurt you when really they're not. They're just satisfying themselves, right? And not even from a selfish perspective. But for some people, if they don't want to do something, they just don't want to do it. And they're not going to do it just because you want them to. Whereas you would just do it because that person wants you to, and because this person is not reciprocating that, it makes you upset. But that person's not obligated to do what you want, just like you're not obligated to do what they want. You have a right to say no. You have a right to set other boundaries, right? And you have a right to say, if you are in a relationship and your spouse wants to go hang out with his friends, you have a right to say, okay, I hope you have a good time, and really genuinely mean it. And you use that time to maybe take a bubble bath, to go get your nails done or your hair done, read a good book, watch something that you want to watch on TV with a blanket, a glass of wine, whatever that looks like. Sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee. I don't know, whatever it looks like, right? But you're secure enough within yourself, because again, you've taken that 6 months to a year to live with yourself. You know what you like, and now this person is not there, so you get to do things that you like, provided you don't have kids. But if you do have kids, maybe the kids are with him. I don't know whatever that looks like. But maybe they leave and give you time to be to yourself. Maybe you can write again, read a book, watch your favorite show, watch the birds in the backyard with your cup of coffee. I don't know. But it doesn't sway you one way or the other, right? You're comfortable with it and life is good, right? Again, I'm here if you need help with this. Just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to assist you. Love y'all. Later. Mwah.